because I'm the best employee anybody's ever had.
It's true. I mean, that comes from your current CEO. He's like, he's awesome.
Well, he's very kind, but thank you so much. But yeah, I just plug through like everybody else. We're all just trying to make it happen and make Salesforce better for everyone.
Yeah, absolutely. And to that point, I guess we can dive in. So I had some slides, but who really cares about slides? It'll be the same basic ground rules each time. Be kind, be helpful, be smart, in that order. Any question is fair game, whatever it is, no matter how rudimentary or how advanced it is. I know that a lot of these questions are going to help a lot of people. So even if you think that your question is basic, it's still fine. We all start from ground zero. None of us know anything when we got into this whole game. And then the final piece, keep secrets as well is another rule. Proprietary information from your employer, from your clients, whatever. Be mindful of that when you ask your questions so that we don't reveal any private information. This will be publicly uploaded to YouTube after this. I do have some questions as primers if nobody has any, but we'll start with the people who showed up on the call. With that said, who's got the first question?
Well, you can out me on my question about needing Sales Cloud to have CPQ.
Sure. Well, so the question was, Melody's getting into CPQ fairly early on in the process. And the question is, they got a complex setup where she works. And how do you need Sales Cloud to have CPQ? The short answer is yes, you do. I'm sure that someone could come up with some crazy convoluted architecture to try to get around some of that, but I don't think that's really even possible. I'm pretty sure I would have to actually check on this to be 100% sure, but I'm going to go with 99.9% sure you have to have Sales Cloud to have CPQ. And the reason is because Salesforce CPQ leverages Sales Cloud objects. You have the account object and, contact object, but okay, so that's platform stuff. But the quote has to look up to an opportunity and you synchronize with the opportunity products. And the only way to get access to those two objects is to have a Sales Cloud license. Additionally, you have the contract object only available with Sales Cloud. If you have, if you're going to do Salesforce CPQ with Service Cloud, so instead of pointing at the contract object, you point to the Service Cloud or Service Contract object, you would have restrictions there as well. So we have those technical reasons why we would need it. Also, do you want to generate orders? Well, orders would also require Sales Cloud licenses. So you have these tactical restrictions on why we have to have Sales Cloud. I cannot access this object. I cannot access this field. I cannot do this function without a Sales Cloud license. And then you have layered on top of that, just the practicality of it all. Like, would I really want to use, for example, let's say I had HubSpot CRM, just for the sake of argument. If I had HubSpot CRM, but I was trying to use Salesforce CPQ, you have different potential data models, you have different systems. Now you're building integrations and all this other stuff. Even if you could do it, why would you want to? Because there would be so much customization and integration work and custom code and all this other stuff. It just wouldn't make sense. Now, I also know that there are companies, I've worked with clients like this in the past, that I want to do it this way. So make it happen and we'll spend the money. And then they want to do crazy customizations to the nth degree. Kranti and I worked on a project that was like that. We worked together on a project where there were some requirements where you go, are you sure you want to do it that way? And they go, yep, we want to do that. Are you sure though? Because reasons A through Z on why that's probably not the best way to go. No, we still want to do it that way. Okay, it's your money, I guess.
Well, that's what we're doing. We have, that I can tell so far, first week, but they're doing leads and opportunities and dynamics, and then somehow going into Salesforce, but specifically just the CPQ app to do sort of the quote piece. And then there's like a logic IO configurator on top of that. It's very crazy what I'm seeing here. And they're going to move from Dynamics to Sales Cloud, but it doesn't, because of what you just said, right? Like, I think everyone was like, why did you go that way?
And that's
was,
one of the, yeah, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say I was like, how are you not tracking opportunities
in the system that you're
naturally?
using for quoting? I mean, it just, from a, if we take the fact that I bathe in the Salesforce Kool-Aid, right? So if we take that aside, just looking at the practicality of it all, if I'm thinking, even let's get technology agnostic, just functions, right? Opportunity management and quoting are very closely related to each other. Inside of the whole concept of opportunity management, we have quoting. So if quoting is a subset of opportunity management, then it would just make logical sense that where I want to quote, I should also manage my opportunities, because that's like a child process of a larger process. So to put the two things in completely different universes doesn't really make sense. And then you add to that the complexities around, as mentioned previously, the tactical and technical considerations. We have different environments, different systems. If you have two completely different products, different vendors, now you got to start to wrestle with integrations. And now we're talking APIs and custom development and all these other things. And even if you could do it, why would you want to? That just sounds like a pain in the ass. So if I had to guess what probably happened, this is pure speculation. I have no basis for this theory other than just experience. And is that someone probably would just adamantly, no, we're going to do it this way, or we already spent the money on the licenses for this and the licenses don't expire for 2 years. So we're just going to force this to happen. And then eventually you realize, wait a minute, the juice is not worth the squeeze. So we need to find a better way to do this. Thus, maybe we should actually go with the native products that they're designed to work with and save a whole boatload of money on maintaining custom integrations and custom development and things like that. If I had to guess, that's probably the general flavor of what happened, but I don't know.
Yeah. No, I think it was more, they're a Microsoft partner generally. And I think they just started on Dynamics as a natural sort of lead to opportunity. And then when they decided to maybe move,
which works for a while. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
that actually makes, but Microsoft doesn't have a quote tool, really.
That was going to be my question, because I honestly don't know. Does Microsoft have a quoting tool at all?
I don't think so. What I've heard so far this week is pretty much not anything robust enough to handle the complexities of their structure, which is why CPQ's been in play for quite a while. This program I got hired on for is to move everything over to Sales Cloud, Service Cloud, Experience Cloud, and for a tighter integration with CPQ.
Like massive integration and all this, or not integrate, massive transformation project.
Yeah.
Like
yes.
Sure.
Massive. Exactly. So, but thank you.
Just to add a little more to this. So I come from Aptus/Conga background. And at one point, because this was when like Aptus was in line to get acquired by Salesforce.
Yeah, they were definitely in line.
It was late 2016, right? The moment the deal fell through and they acquired Steelbrick, Aptus pivoted to the Dynamics side. So what they wanted to do was they wanted to be the quoting engine for Dynamics and Salesforce. So they were building a platform agnostic system, but it fell on their face to the point that John, you were making, that the integrations are so complex that opportunity has to be really in sync with your quotes. So they really tried hard, and they tried to sell it to Dynamics customers all over the world, like the big automobile and this petrochemical companies. The Dynamics and Salesforce just don't communicate well. So just putting it out there, because I've learned it, and I was not part of the projects directly, but I've seen like things not work, and comes back to like the whole circle. Is the juice worth the squeeze is the question.
I mean, everybody's in the transportation industry, but one company makes planes, one company makes trucks, and one company makes boats. And sure, you can get your goods from here to there and in those different vehicles, but okay, you have a boat. I'm not going to sell you tires. That doesn't make any sense. So I don't know, maybe that I got to workshop that metaphor a little bit more. We'll see if we can refine that over time, and it'll add to the stack of ridiculous metaphors that I use for things. But we want maybe language is a better metaphor. We have different languages, and you have to have a translator. So what's the translator?
Right.
That's your APIs, that's your ETL, and all the different data massaging that has to happen. So, I mean, yes, you could do that. Sure, you could build custom, you could do all sorts of other stuff. You could set up a middleware that does that, which sounds like that's what Aptus was trying to do, is almost be a middleware. But that's a whole other game.
I mean, it handled basic cases, but when with pricing, things get really complicated and real time stuff. So I just didn't see it mature enough. Like, I mean, again, if they had spent more resources, who knows, right?
Well, and in those sorts of
like,
partnerships too, you have to, like, on the business side, you have Aptus, and then you have Salesforce, and you have Microsoft. When you have two big bosses, trying to please two big bosses at the same time is a hard thing to do. We've all had situations at work where we're just like, yeah, I have multiple bosses, and they're all telling me they want different things done at the same time. Who wins? Well, you have to get them both done. Yeah, but I'm telling you, I can only work on one thing at a time. Who gets priority? We both do. Okay, so then you can't prioritize the work to be done, and then things start to slip, and then you're the one who's in trouble because these two can't figure out who's the boss. But that's a whole other conversation.
To tie it back to Melody's question, so I've only worked on Aptus and Conga. Even for that, we prefer Sales Cloud. So everything, our quotes, like, it's a different custom object than the traditional Salesforce quote object.
Yeah.
And it also interacts, and it's that interaction between opportunity and quotes is just fantastic. So we love it.
Yeah, and it's good to know that there are multiple quoting tools out there, because I mean, if we keep this more RevOps focused or quote to cash process focused, I mean, the reality is companies are going to use different tools for different things. I mean, how many ERP systems are out there, right? And you're going to have to integrate to some of these, and they're not all going to have similar data models. They're going to have different restrictions. Like NetSuite wants its own orders to create invoices or something like this, from what I remember. So you're trying to integrate to the order. There's complications with that. And of course, because all of these giant companies are competitors with each other, they don't want to play nice necessarily. So who gets stuck in the middle? The customers and the consultants. And so it's like, okay, you two can't figure this out and play nice together. And as a result, you're punishing your customers. You're punishing the consultants who are trying desperately to figure out a solution for how to get these two things to talk to each other. But that's a whole soapbox I won't bore you with. What's the next question? I have another one if nobody has one.
Well, I don't know if my question is even relevant to our current conversation, but I've gone down a rabbit hole of different quote to cash programs or software that's out there. I think I talked to you, John, about the new version of CPQ that's supposedly in development, as opposed to other ones like New and Monetize Now and Cash Flow and Subscribe and so forth. So my question is, has anyone seen or used other quote to cash platforms besides CPQ? How do they feel that? Do they measure up? And then, John, maybe a question to you is that you're the one who tipped me off to the new version of CPQ that is currently in development. Have you seen it? What's it like? Well,
that's a.
Oh, is that proprietary information?
No, it's not proprietary information. I mean, they made a big to-do about it at Dreamforce, and I'm happy to talk about that. So different quoting tools. Yeah. If anybody's got experience with other quote to cash systems, I mean, Mahulia mentioned Aptus. I haven't really, personally, I haven't worked with anything other than Steelbrick. I mean, that's what I built my career on. Friends of mine were in the Oracle CPQ space, big machines, before Oracle bought them. And so those are about the only two areas. And I have friends that have Aptus experience as well, but I know, you know, there's Deal Hub and there's this Neo or something like that. Juanis is what it was called.
It's new, NUE.io, which seems to be which seems to be like the front runner for people who don't want to use CPQ.
Yes, it sounds to me from the website, from what you've described, price effects. Yeah, there's also oh, that reminds me of another one.
There's cash flow. I see a bunch of posts on LinkedIn or somewhere for cash flow.
I've heard of that one as well.
CHE, yeah.
I don't know specifically what that one does. What was that?
Zora.
Yes, Zora. Although from folks that I know who worked on the billing team at Zora, they were basically saying the CPQ tool that Zora provides pales in comparison to Salesforce CPQ. Also keep in mind the challenging situation, to avoid calling it a nightmare, the challenging situation if they've purchased Salesforce CPQ and Zora billing. That's a nightmare. Very fundamentally different data models at the product level. So we're talking everything up from the product. The whole structure of the basements is different and in different countries. And now we're trying to get these things reconciled. So we're going to build a bridge across the ocean so that these two tools can talk to each other. I've had friends on those projects. They almost always seem to turn into disasters. So that may not be what these companies want to hear if they ever watch these Revenue Cloud office hours. But hey, I'm not here to be liked. I'm here to be trusted.
I'm curious to know, like, if without divulging any information, what are the struggles between Salesforce CPQ and Zora? Because at my current employer, we use CPQ, after CPQ or Conga CPQ with Zora billing, and we love it. Like, we do see like some mismatches here, but like we can get around those with integrations and customizations, and it's pretty awesome actually.
So, okay, so that was with the Conga/Aptus CPQ then?
Oh, is it? Okay, maybe then
I was speaking specifically Steelbrick CPQ is the one I was talking about.
Okay.
And so I started on a project that involved Salesforce CPQ and Zora billing years ago. So I don't know the current state of things, though I have had friends work on it more recently, and it sounds like it's still not optimal. And from what I remember, and it was years and years ago, but from what I remember, the Zora product price book entry structure is very flat. It's almost like you have a product and then the price is on the product itself. You don't have a separate table for each price book entry. So
it's like a rate plan charge is what they call, and then
exactly. And that's fundamentally different than the data model of Salesforce in general. Take CPQ out of it. I mean, you talk products, price book entries, that's 3 objects, where Zora's got it all crammed into like 1. So now that
struggle is still there. Yeah.
Okay.
We have that struggle, but we got around. I mean, we were lucky to have a great architect and at the beginning, and they built like intermediate those virtual objects, if you will. And that would like really convert your Zora transaction lines to something on the CPQ side. So that's a lot of heavy customization.
Exactly. Yeah, they don't nicely and natively just talk to each other. There are different languages, and you have to have a translator. That's probably a pretty good metaphor to use. Is there different languages? Is trying to convert Mandarin to Spanish. You know, Spanish is a simpler language. From what I understand, I don't speak either very well, but I hear that it is easier to learn Spanish than to learn Mandarin. So maybe the metaphor tracks. I don't know. But you have fundamentally different languages trying to get those to reconcile. And then you got those lost in translation pieces where it's like, well, what do we do with this thing? We don't really know. It's we'll just figure it out. So those are some of the fundamental challenges that I've heard of. And because it's at such a basic level, I mean, we're talking products, price book entries and the price books, that's like ground level. So everything you build on top of that is based on that specific setup. And then you have this other thing that's built in a totally different way at a fundamental level. So it's it's similar to just a Romance language versus a Slavic language. They're very different, and they're different at the most basic level. So the translation is going to be even more difficult and precarious, and things like that. I think it's a good question though, Juanis, you know, and then you have now Salesforce announcing at Dreamforce that, hey, Salesforce CPQ is going to core. We're going to get product parity by 2025. I will believe it when I see it. As far as have I seen it? I've seen screenshots. Screenshots aren't software. Like, okay, you got some wireframes, some pretty looking screenshots. Show me some transactions. And that's where, what software was it? Was Accounting Seed. So I saw a demo of Accounting Seed, which is apparently the top accounting platform that's built on the Force.com platform. The most customers of any accounting product in the App Exchange. I saw a demo, and it might have just been this specific demo, but it was a terrible demo. I didn't see a single transaction. The demo engineer just like talked through what the menu options were, and I'm thinking in my head, bro, I can read. You don't have to read these menu options to me. Show me some transactions. I want to see this thing in motion, and none of that happened. So it was a dismal a demo, but you know, so it goes. Do I believe it'll be product parity by 2025? Hell no. But that's going to sell some software. And Salesforce might be pissed at me about this opinion. That's fine. Make my opinion wrong. Prove me wrong, Salesforce. Get product parity by 2025, and I will eat my words, and I'll be happy about it, because sometimes it's good when I'm wrong. But I tend to be a skeptic. I tend to be cynical about things. So when you tell me you're going to get that product to an equal level when this other product has been developed for years and years, I have a hard time believing that. But if the screenshots end up being what they seem, building out pricing logic and building out bundles in the new Salesforce CPQ will be much more like Flow Builder. It has that sort of UI feel to it. You could probably find, it's the Revenue Cloud keynote from Dreamforce. You can find it and check it out. It's probably on Salesforce Plus, so you can check that out and see for yourself, and then weigh in with your own opinion on, is this really going to happen by 2025? I don't know. We'll see. But that starts to get into the question then, I mean, our careers are built on this stuff. So what happens with our careers? My prediction is that, not that this was a question that was asked, but I'm going to assume that somebody had it. Well, what about my career? The way I see it, you're going to need the old school steel brick CPQ skill set for at least 3 to 5 years, because the difficulty, complexity, investment of these implementations is so great that a company is not just going to pivot from A to B because B has now been released and is GA. Generally available, okay. We'll wait for a few releases for you to fix all those bugs, and then maybe I'll buy it. So there's going to be that need for at least a few years. There's going to be a need for the new product once it starts rolling out, and they're going to roll it as quickly as they can. Those simpler use cases, maybe it's a SaaS company that's got, I don't know, 10 products and it's all basic subscriptions. Yeah, we can roll those scenarios out quicker, whatever. And then you're going to have that group in the middle. So some customers will only want to buy into what they've already done. They're not going to cut over. They're going to resist as much as possible. You're going to have some customers that'll buy the new software when it's available, and they'll never have experience with SteelBrick. And then you're going to have these customers that want to do the transformation and go from old school CPQ to new school CPQ. There's a whole bit of expertise that's going to be needed just to make that transition. And a person who probably put together a solid 4 to 5 year career just on helping companies cut over from the old one to the new one once the new one is ready. So I don't think that quote to cash jobs are going to go away. The only way that would happen is if quote to cash as a business process ceased to exist. Well, the reality is companies are always going to be selling stuff and getting money. So as long as companies sell stuff and get money, there's a need for some sort of quote to cash, even if that's e-commerce, because that's still commercial systems. That's still trying to sell stuff and get money. As long as we as RevOps, quote to cash people can stay relevant, stay abreast of things, make sure that we know what's going on in the industry. We're willing to learn new skills and things like this. We understand that at the fundamental level, we're trying to sell stuff and get money faster. We're fine. There may be some painful transitions in there along the way, but I think over the long term, it'll all smooth over. That's one guy's opinion on the internet, you know, but if somebody else has thoughts on that, feel free to share.
I think you're right. I think there's going to be a long ramp, and having no sort of knowledge of the other product. What I was thinking while you were talking was, if it's meant to replace, then in some way, wouldn't it be a lot like the workflow rule and process builder migration to Flow, where there's just this huge ramp, and then at some point way down the line in 5 years, now we're making people tell them they have to move over.
Right, because you remember when the workflow rule thing first came out, they're like, we're going to get rid of workflow rules, and we're going to do it 2 years from now, and everybody goes, oh my God. Well, now here we are, what, 7 years later, and they're saying, no, but for real this time, you can still have them, but you can't make new ones. And then, oh, we've now built out this tool to help you convert them into Flow or whatever. And then process builders, same story. Hey, process builders, the greatest thing ever. Oh, it's horribly performant and is really clunky and is not actually that great. We're going to replace it with the thing we had before process builder. We're just going to make the interface for Flow better and then add a whole bunch of other stuff to it, of course. But it's definitely going to be something more like that. It's going to be a much longer runway. So product parity by 2025. Highly doubtful in my mind. 2028 seems more realistic.
Yeah.
On the plus side, they've already run into a bunch of dead ends with the existing product. So hopefully, MDQ is a good example. Multidimensional quoting, if you're not familiar with it, it's that idea of I'm going to ramp up the price over years or increase quantities, whatever. There's a half-baked solution now in place. Multidimensional quoting. It works on paper, but so do a lot of things. And my hope is that they finish what they started and they really build a multi-year ramping and uplifting function that works with renewals, that works with amendments, that works with order generation, you know, these glaring gaps in the current functionality that haven't been addressed in years because apparently no real development has happened on Revenue Cloud for 2 or 3 years, other than, oh, Core introduced this new function. Let's piggyback on it and say that we built something. I don't know. Maybe that's a little bit mean. Sorry, product managers, if you end up watching this. But at the same time, your consultants and architects are out here screaming, this is what we need. We see this all the time. We're not going to worry about that. Okay. Anyway, end rant. Anybody else have thoughts on that topic?
Can you explain multidimensional coding like I'm 5? That's what I tell ChatGPT, but now that I have you, can you give me a small example? Just want to understand.
Yeah.
I think I know what it is, but I just want to make sure I don't let you repeat what
you're the CEO of a SaaS company, Mehul, and you want to sell things on a subscription basis.
Mm-hmm.
But what you want to do is you want to find ways to increase your revenue year over year. And you can do that with a couple of different levers. You can increase your prices, you can increase the license counts, you can get more customers, right? So those are the different main 3 levers: more customers, higher price point, and then more transactions per year. Those are your 3 main levers. So you get the bright idea that says, well, how about this? How about we sell a 3-year contract, and the first year is going to be $10, and then we're going to uplift 10% on year 2. We're going to uplift another 10% on year 3. What we're also going to do is I'm going to start this customer with 10 licenses in year 1, and I'm going to ramp them up to 20 licenses in year 2 and 30 licenses in year 3. So now we have both quantity increases year over year. We have price increases year over year. Maybe I also give this customer a 10% discount in the first year and a 5% discount in the second year. All of this year over year stuff is what multidimensional quoting is supposed to alleviate and address. And it does. Kind of. especially for the simple demo scenarios that every customer sees where they go, oh, that's the solution, because it's the start of what you need. It's, I need a way while I'm quoting today to tell the customer, here's what you're going to pay over the next 3 years, the next 5 years, if you want to tweak and do this. And I'll tell you what, if you ramp up to 20 licenses next year, I'll give you a 10% discount on those licenses. It's all how do we bake in a well-defined, structured, automated way those negotiation points. Yeah, well, I'll tell you what, Mahal, I'll do 10 more licenses next year, but you got to give me a 25% discount this year. And I got you. How do I get that in the system? So that's what multidimensional quoting is trying to accomplish. There's a function that was built, multidimensional quoting, to attempt to address this. But the problem is that because of the complexity, and then you have the acquisitions that happen, and sometimes maybe there's not enough adoption of a function to justify more investment of the product management team. I don't know what the story is. No one asked for my opinion in the matter. So, but it just never got fully baked. So when you run into scenarios with what is it, like order generation from amendments that use multidimensional quoting, like things just don't work. And so a lot of customization has to happen around it. It can be a good solution in some scenarios. Sometimes you might need to come up with alternative solutions. Some common ones are using quote line groups instead of the actual multidimensional quoting function. So you'll create one quote group, one quote line group for year 1, another quote line group for year 2, another for year 3. But it's all these trade-offs. As architects, we got to think about the trade-offs. So the trade-offs there are that those different lines don't talk to each other. Whereas if you use the MDQ function, there's a, what do they call it? It's a segment key is I think that's the field, but it's an automatically generated string of numbers that says quote lines 1, 2, and 3 are tied together. Quote lines 4, 5, and 6 are tied together. So systematically behind the scenes, the tool knows those lines are tied together and therefore should be treated as a cohesive unit, even though they're 3 discrete quote lines. And the reason I would need 3 lines is because a price field can contain only one value. So I would need one value stored for year 1, one value stored for year 2, and one for year 3, which necessitates 3 records in the scenario that I outlined. Another solution, people will use product options. Maybe I'll have the ability to add multiple product options so that I can accommodate for years 2 and years 3 that way. So then I still end up with the same number of quote lines. They're kind of tied together via the bundle structure, but they're not systematically tied together with that key like they would be with MDQ. So as you're thinking about those multi-year uplift and ramp deals, the things to think about, at least when it comes to Salesforce CPQ as a product specifically, are the various trade-offs and considerations that you need to keep in that will affect what you are and are not able to do. What am I going to give up to use this? Well, if I use the native function, I can do this, and that's very easy, but this is very difficult. If I go with quote line groups as a different solution, maybe the front end is more difficult, but the back end is easier.
Easy to process.
Yeah. And as is often the case, when we're architecting, we find out that there are 5 potential solutions. All of them get us 80% of what we need. All of them are missing 20%. The client or our company says, yeah, but I want the 100% solution. And you have to say, there isn't one. This is what you get. Which 20% do you not care about the most? There we go.
I remember one thing, and this was back in, again, when I was at Aptus. They did one primary quote.
Yep.
And then they had then secondary quotes that would have those. So at the time, I did not know it was like the ramped deals, but from what you are telling me, I think I'm putting the puzzle together.
Or other ways I've seen it done, or similar types of things. Maybe you have one parent contract that has 3 children contracts, and you're renewing the quote year over year. And then on that third one, you create a brand new MSA quote. I've seen that done. Some companies will use 3 different opportunities with different close dates. But then you run into a weird thing because sales is different than revenue. And then you start to get into like the whole revenue recognition thing, or they'll put, like where do the dollars go? And if you have one opportunity, like a single opportunity, that single opportunity can have only one close date. So then if you're trying to like forecast revenue based on close date, it looks like I sold 300K this year, but really it's 100K over 3 years. Well, maybe we can use revenue schedules or something like this. It gets into all sorts of other things. So often
this approach is also messing up my renewal thing. Like, how would renewals work on this case?
Right. How do renewals work? Because if I create 3 different opportunities, well, I do that now.
Will each of them have that renewal opportunity? Will there be a single renewal opportunity for all?
And then
3?
what do we do if in year 1 they add 10 more licenses? What does that do to the years that follow? So now I have my amendment scenarios to consider. Now things just got more complicated. So so there's that. I almost feel like these sessions are going to turn into me ranting about this product. Well, hopefully it's at least moderately entertaining. What other questions?
But at least somebody will listen to it and then maybe like, oh, this is really actually a concern. So let's build it.
Let's see here. So Juanis pulled up. What is that, Juanis, that you just shared?
Yeah, I was wondering if that was the correct one you were referencing.
Let me click on the link. Let's see. If I had to guess, probably because there was only one.
There was only one.
What is this? Oh, did you know CPQ can do that? I think I've seen this demo. New functionality and use cases, DocGen approvals, contract lifecycle management. How do I say this demo's bullshit without saying this demo's bullshit?
Well, that wasn't the question.
I think we got
exactly.
it. We got it.
That wasn't exactly the question.
Well, the demo is very good. Vance is one of the best solution engineers that exists on planet Earth for Revenue Cloud, and he's really good. The reason I say is there are a couple of reasons why I, without saying it's bullshit, say it's bullshit. So the approvals function, they're basically showing how you can do Salesforce CPQ advanced approvals using Slack, which is not all that new. And to me, in my opinion, it's not all that impressive either. I don't really give a shit. I think Slack is overrated.
You can build a custom solution around that.
The irony is I've created multiple Slack workspaces for different purposes, but I think Slack as a general tool for running your whole business is overrated.
We are thinking about implementing Slack approvals without Salesforce CPQ, right? So it's like you have to just trigger like Slack integrate, like whenever a quote is ready for approvals, you just put it on Slack. It's like a Slack integration you have to build. So again, to your point, I don't think that's impressive. It's just a native functionality which you no longer have to configure.
So there's more to it than just me not being that impressed by it. I also worry about, there's a deeper reason for me personally. It is the way that we work right now in knowledge work. This is a whole other rant I won't bore you with right now. The way we work is detrimental to the way our brains function. And if you look at the way the human brain functions best, the way we work in knowledge work is the worst way to possibly work. And it actively destroys our cognitive abilities, which in knowledge work seems like it'd be a pretty big deal. Like having all these conversations happening all the time and just punching you in the face. It's like you're in an MMA fight with somebody who's way better than you, and they're just punching you in the face all day with different notifications for everything, and everything's got to be done right now, and everything's chaotic, and everything's urgent, and So this whole like, oh, everything should just live in Slack, to me is a horrific idea. But that's a whole other soapbox. Can you tell I'm an architect? The DocGen thing that gets into, what's it called? Omni Studio, and the idea of Salesforce CPQ having its own TLM-ish tool. It's not as robust as, say, an Apttus or Conga, but it gets into, it's beyond the quote template. So if we think about a crawl, walk, run scenario, based on the demos I saw at Dreamforce, which asterisk, it was a demo at Dreamforce, is that you have out of the box quote templates in Salesforce CPQ. Then you have on the other extreme, you have a fully baked contract lifecycle management solution, which does all your red line, all that crazy stuff. And then you have something in the middle. And I see this Omni Studio DocGen thing as that something in the middle. It's, to me, it feels like Salesforce's attempt to have an affordable baked in CLM that's good enough for, say, an SMB. Is it good enough for an enterprise company with millions of customers and crazy contractual negotiations and all that stuff? Probably not. Could it get there eventually? Probably, I guess, depending on the level of investment that Salesforce wants to put in it, you know? So that's what the DocGen thing is. Contract lifecycle management, to Vance's credit, it is the first live working demo I have seen of the customer lifecycle management. It used to be, contract lifecycle management, which was previously called contract or customer asset lifecycle management, something like that, CALM. Now they've shortened it. The idea is I want to see how my annual recurring revenue is increasing, decreasing per account year over year. I'm trying to track my asset subscription, growth of the account, all these different things, which is huge. Like if you implement it, and I only know of one actual implementation of it. So I've now seen with my own eyeballs one functioning live demo, not screenshots, but an actual working demo of a very basic scenario. And a friend of mine who's a Revenue Cloud expert, whose opinion I trust, his company just went live with a client of this function, and he said that it's working, but it's all API driven too. So that's the other thing you got to think about. But yeah, so that is, but to answer the actual question, Juanis, that is not the Revenue Cloud keynote. So that's a really long answer. That'll probably piss off a bunch of people along the way if they watch it, but you know, I heard you're talking shit. No, I'm just speaking the truth. That's all. And it's all my opinion. One random guy's opinion on the internet. That's my legal disclaimer. Anyway, what other questions do we have? Probably got 10 more minutes left or so, because Mahul and I have a call right after this, but if no other questions, I can also just pivot. I was asked about the basics of the data model and stuff, maybe key objects and things like this. And then I had the thought, well, I need to build out a ERD anyway that I'm going to use with clients in the future. So why not just use this as an opportunity to build out the starting point of an ERD and talk through some basic objects? If that works for you, we can try that. See how that works. Okay, cool.
I'm sorry,
I do have a question, John.
Yeah, what's up?
I gotta drop, but it's
Sorry,
been a
man.
pleasure meeting everyone.
Oh, see you, Juanis.
You too. Bye-bye.
Yeah, what's up?
I am also trying to add more certifications just to keep up with Salesforce. And since I'm not working at a company where I have a Salesforce Sandboxes at my disposal, is it easy to just get a sandbox to play around and update and go through my certification?
Yeah, in fact, let me share it in the chat. There's a Revenue Cloud specific sandbox. If you were trying to play around with Revenue Cloud, if you just want to mess around, I would either go to Trailhead and just spin up a playground, or just Google free Salesforce dev org, and you can make as many of those as you want. I mean, there's limited storage capacity. You only have a couple of licenses, but if all you're trying to do is just try stuff and break things, it's great. You can also, let's see here, Salesforce CPQ Playground. I think I bookmarked this. Sign up for a Trailhead Playground with Salesforce CPQ. Well, look at that. The first link here, I'll throw this in the chat. So, there you go, right there. Boom. So if you go there, you'll be able to spin up a
This is so new because I signed up for a Salesforce CPQ certification a year or maybe 2 years ago. And at the time, they did not have that. So I was like, how much documentation can I read? So I dropped the whole idea. So I paid for it and dropped for it. And now this is there. So I'll just take a retake and get this over.
Well, and there's
Yeah.
also, let me get another link and drop that in the chat. I have a folder full of material that I've created. I showed some of it on the last call where it's my Salesforce CPQ extra stuff. I'll share the Dropbox link. I made this. So first, no one pays me for my PowerPoint skills or my design skills. These will look like shit. I apologize.
No worries.
So if anybody has really good design skills, feel free to remake these things and make them look better. So I'm gonna copy the link. Okay, great. Now I'll paste that over here in the chat. So you can go to that Dropbox link. I have a whole bunch of extra stuff, including a Salesforce CPQ study guide that I created years ago when I was at Simplus. It's kind of a study guide. It's also dated, so keep that in mind. But it's like 100 pages long. Really, it's like a desk reference. What I would do is I would take the PDF, go to FedEx, print it, bind it, and keep it on your desk. And it's got all sorts of stuff in there. I worked on it for months. In fact, I worked on it and then realized this is the wrong approach. I did it wrong, and I threw the whole thing away. I had put dozens of hours into it, and I went, this is wrong. I gotta do it better. And so then I redid the whole thing. It ended up even bigger. And to my knowledge, it's been downloaded thousands of times. By the time I left Simplus, it was downloaded over 1,000 times. So my name's not in there, but it was probably one of my biggest contributions while I was a Simplus employee.
Thank you so much for sharing it, but boo to Dropbox because Box VPN won't let me access Dropbox, so I'll have to turn off the VPN. So Kranti, I don't know. I work for Box, who's the competitor with Dropbox, so it's not letting me access the link. So.
I mean, it makes sense. Yeah,
but no, I can drop I can close the VPN and I should be able to access. I just have to retain the link somewhere.
Yeah,
so, but thank you for sharing it. It's not easy to build something and then share it with everybody. So totally appreciate that.
Yeah. Appreciate that. Yeah.
And I want to, as I mentioned, these calls are going to be publicly available. So once this is done, I'm going to let the video convert. I'm going to take the video now that I figured out the whole YouTube situation. I can take that and just upload the raw video straight to YouTube. I'll chop the ends off for the intro conversation. And then I'll put the timestamps in it too. So the timestamps of when questions were asked, and then you can just jump right to that, which also should help with the indexing of the material so people can actually find my videos. I'm
able to access your Dropbox. Yeah.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
And in there, I have a number of different things. So Kranti, as you're looking to learn these things, I would point you specifically to the CPQ capstone project for the peanut butter and jelly sandwich, which sounds silly.
That's the one I opened. That's the first one that's there. I opened.
In my opinion, it's some of my best work. I never got to finish it though. So there's more ideas that I have, but it's a discussion between a consultant and a client. It makes no mention of products or product features or product options or price rules, none of that, but you'll have to build those things. So I'm trying to, through this example, help you learn how to architect CPQ without using any of those words. Like, what should I build? You're just going to have to figure that out. But they may be allergic to gluten. They might be allergic to peanuts. What's your solution design for that? Or how should I construct the bundle based on what we sell? I even have some subscription products in there for peanut butter and jelly support and peanut butter and jelly, a club membership. So silly examples, but they're memorable and they teach the principles. So eventually I want to take it through like ordering and invoicing and payments. And then I'll just get you involved, Kranti, for revenue recognition.
Yeah, definitely. I'd love to. Yeah. I'm just trying to brush up my certification. So this Trailhead and this Dropbox will help me.
Yeah. As far as certifications, I would say if you don't have it already, starting with the Salesforce Administrator, I would do Advanced Administrator next, then Sales Cloud Consultant, then CPQ Specialist, and then if you really want to punch yourself in the face, the Revenue Cloud Consultant Accredited Professional. I think I got that right. from memory.
Okay.
I helped write, I was on a team that helped write the questions for that exam, which was fun. Getting to see the behind the scenes of how these tests come together. It's way more involved than I thought it was going to be. So that's where when you see these free flashcard things on the internet, they may be very useful. I don't know. I've never really used practice tests or flashcards for this stuff. If that works for you, great. Just keep in mind that these are random people on the internet making study guides. They may be correct, or they might be
Right.
completely wrong. I've seen both.
Yeah.
So
most of the times they're wrong, but they help you get in the mindset of an exam and a Salesforce. Like, so you start thinking in that direction at least. Like, I signed up for these focus on force tests for
I've heard really good things about focus on force.
So they're good. They give the same user experience as a Salesforce exam does, but like a
Okay.
lot of questions are like weird and like very long-winded, but they're asking like, okay, where would you go to select setup? That kind of stuff.
And the
So
common complaint
they
I
at
hear
least-
is there's no CPQ version. There's no CPQ
Yes,
test,
yeah,
which everybody is
yeah.
like, John, please make something. I'm going, yeah, but there's part of me that believes in practice tests because they help you pass the test. I did some of that for the GRE because as part of business school applications. But then there's part of
Right.
me that goes, but the real world doesn't have these nice, neat, curated whatevers. You should be able to give me a short answer or an essay answer to this
Right.
question, because it's never this clear cut. It's A. That's the answer.
So the
Never that
practice
simple.
test, like what I've learned in my experience is I started getting certifications very late in my life, right? I've been in the ecosystem for almost 10 years and I started getting certifications in the last 3 years. So I know a lot of stuff, but you don't get recognized until you get certification. So
Yeah.
for that, you have to clear those exams. And for that, you really have to be in that exam mindset. But I totally relate with you,
Yeah,
John.
I
Like,
agree.
answers to be certified, you should be able to solve problems and not just tick a box.
Exactly. But you're exactly right, though, how the recognition, and I see the certifications as, and this would, I guess, be a good way to wrap up the call and segue into our next call, is that I see the certifications as a marketing tool for myself.
Yes.
It's like the technical specifications of a product. It's John Garvin's has this feature and this feature and this feature and this feature. You can get all of these for the low price of, or I guess extremely high price of. But yeah, that's how I look at it, because that's what the recruiters and the hiring managers, because they don't know anything about, unless they're like a Salesforce shop at a consulting firm, they don't know what they're looking at. So they're just trying to match. Okay, here's a bunch of certifications. These are the certifications I'm looking for. Oh, look, we have a match. They must be an expert. Whereas we all know there are other factors to consider. Not everybody who gets certified in a thing is actually good at it. Some of the people who are the best at CPQ don't have the certification. I won't say names, but there are people who may or may not lead the Revenue Cloud practice at the mothership that don't have and couldn't pass that exam, but they bring other skills to the table. So it's a piece of paper. You can take all my certifications away right now, I'll be just fine. However, when it comes to job search, they're quite useful.
The best deal is if somebody pays for it for you.
Oh, 100%. And on that note, that concludes our call for today. Thank you very much for coming, Juanis and Melody and everybody else who was on before this. Thank you for coming. I'll upload this to YouTube shortly after this call, and we'll do this again next week.
Okay.
Awesome.
Take care.
Thanks,
Thanks.
John.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.
Bye. Thank you.